Well, hello. Today I have another blogger to talk to, and this is Deb from Seeking Lavender Lane. So she's graciously joining us today, and we're going to have a chat with her. So, hi, Deb. How are you?
Hi, Lisa. Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm good, and I'm so glad to talk to you and get to meet you well, not in person, but virtually.
Almost.
Almost. Yeah. Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me how this all got started with blogging. How did you get into blogging?
Sure. So I've been blogging. It'll actually be 10 years this year. Which is pretty incredible.
Wow.
I can't even believe I'm hitting the 10-year mark. I never in a million years thought I would do something like this. I started more so for the creative process. And when I started blogging, it was like a totally different world. It wasn't so much social media. And I had just come across a couple of different bloggers that were sharing their content on Pinterest because Pinterest was very new at the time in 2013. And so I was like, wow, I feel like I can do this. And I really loved home decor. And, I was working full time at the time in bridal. And so I wanted to try it out. And so I just went for it one day. I just kind of dabbled in it, barely knew what I was doing. And from there, we found our very first home and we started the process of sharing all of that with the decorating and the DIY projects and how we did our 1985 cookie cutter home and we turned it into a farmhouse. And from there, I've just continued just to keep going for it and still feel like certain days I don't know what I'm doing, but it's been fun and it's been such a journey. And I'm so thankful because it really has opened up so many doors for me. And I'm just still just like ready for what's next.
Wow. So, do you do it all by yourself or do you have any assistants to help you?
So I started just by myself for many, many years. And then I had one assistant who was a college student for about a year. And then that was probably about, gosh, maybe 3 years ago was the first time I hired somebody. And then I hired my current assistant about a year and a half ago. And she helps me with everything because along with blogging, I also run a vintage marketplace and a candle line. And so she's really been a huge help to allowing me to balance all the things and, get my content out there.
Yeah, I get it. I know it's hard to do everything yourself, right?
It really is. It really is. And it's so hard. I think that so many, the world of blogging, there comes a point where blogging is either this side hustle or this just creative outlet for you, or it actually becomes something that you monetize. And so once you've kind of transitioned to where you want to make it a business, um, you realize how hard that is and running your own business and the expense of it all. And so to hire somebody, it's like that first initial leap to do it and feel like, okay, well, whatever I'm bringing in, I have to now share with somebody else. But if you don't do that, you'll never be able to really grow because honestly, one person's really hard to do all the things that it really takes in the blogging world.
Yeah, that's the thing I've heard from many people about the once they hire somebody, then they can expand their business and double, triple their income. But that barrier of trying to do it and being able to do it is so difficult because it's a risk, and you think, well, what if I can't afford it, and all these things. But it
Yeah,
really it's necessary, and it really takes a load off your shoulders, right?
it
So,
does. It does. And it allows you to be able to do things better because sometimes when you're doing it all by yourself, you're just trying to get things done. And so, or you can't do more because, you're just trying to do those few things. And so, it's when you have someone else, you're allowed to like really grow and, let them bring their expert touches to your platform.
yeah, it's true. It's like if well, not that you're not good at it, but when you have your own business and it comes to the point where there are lots of things and you're not an expert at all of them, it's better to let someone who knows how to do it do that thing, and you do the thing that you're good at, which in your case is being creative, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then when you wear too many hats, you lose yourself, right? So, and we can't be good
Hmm.
at everything, we have our strong, parts to us, and then we have our weaknesses. And so it's good to hire someone where you're weaker, like, organization for me, not super great at. So it's good to have someone do that, or
Yeah.
just to do the everyday tasks. For me, I lose a lot of that because I'm like, okay, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And I'm like, oh, I forgot to like schedule some pins today, or do, things like that. So it's good to have someone who could at least keep up with it while you're doing all the other things,
Yeah.
moving the needle, as they say.
Yeah, that's so true. So you
Mhm.
mentioned that you were working in bridal before you started all this. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I went to school for fashion, and prior to going to college, I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer. And so I had this dream of going to FIT in New York. I'm in New Jersey, so I took a couple classes in high school to kind of help my opportunity of getting in. It was like this big dream. And then senior year came around, and I started getting like doubt about going to the city and being a designer. And I guess I was a little intimidated. And so I decided to just stay to a state college here. And I took fashion studies. It was a broad major. And so I did that to kind of decide, maybe I won't do design, but maybe I'll do merchandising, or maybe I'll do, something else in the fashion field. And, and then during that, I took an interior design class and really loved interior design. And I was just really torn on what I wanted to do. So when I graduated college, I started working at Kleinfeld in the city. And the crazy thing is, it was really hard at the time to get a job. And so, and so I had my son when I was in college. And so it was really hard for me too, because I didn't have this single life where I could just move to a small apartment in the city and just try it. And, you know, um, and so for me, it wasn't an easy task to be able to just go and like live this fashion lifestyle. And so I ended up getting an internship because I couldn't get a job, and I didn't want to just work at the mall. I wanted to have, this like really exciting job. And so I got an internship at Kleinfeld, and even though I had graduated already, and from there they ended up hiring me. And I worked I worked in the bridal altogether. I worked at another shop too for about 7 years, and I worked in sales. So which was a lot of fun, but it was also always weekends. And that was really hard on our family, because then my daughter came along. And so for us, it was like, I was home most of the week and with my kids. And then, when they went to school, and then my husband was like Mr. Mom on the weekends, helping with the kids, and I was gone. And so we were always like, hello, goodbye. And so we did that for a really long time until my daughter went to kindergarten. And then that's when I said, I can't do it anymore. I love the bridal industry, but I also, it's stressful because it's sales. And then it's also just, not enough time with my family. And so from there, I, was already blogging on the side at that time. And I said to my husband, wasn't really making anything. I was mostly just getting free products and, little here, little there. But I said to him, just give me 6 months. Give me 6 months to make our minimum, whatever you need for me to bring in. And I never went back. So that was it. So, I'm super thankful God provided, and we were able to just make it work, So I can't say I'm super thriving blogger like some other people. But we make do. So I'm thankful.
Yeah. No, well, that's good. That's awesome. As long as you're happy and you're not struggling, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So how old are your kids now?
So my son's 14 and my daughter's 10. So they are getting big so fast. And yeah, they're both next year. My son's going to high school and my daughter's going to middle school. And so they're not little babies anymore.
No, no, that happens really fast.
Really fast.
Yeah,
So
yeah. My son just turned 17 and I'm like, what?
yeah, it's like, it's so crazy because, when I think back on my childhood, I'm like, I feel like childhood was so long. And then when I watch my kids grow up, from an adult's perspective, it's like, gosh, that went so fast. Like you really were just two, like yesterday,
That's
like
true.
how are you a teenager?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, so tell me about the house that you're in now.
Yeah, so our current house, so we actually just sold it. So that's the
Yeah,
big
I'm going to
news
ask you about that shortly.
that we've been sharing about. So this is our second house that I've shared through the blogging process. We bought this 5 years ago, actually right around this time of year, 5 years ago, and it was a foreclosure, really in bad shape. And here in New Jersey, it's just really hard to find anything with like a little bit of land. And so it had some land and we liked that, but it needed a lot of work. And, I think a few too many fixer upper episodes got me feeling feeling inspired. Thanks, Joanna. And so we took on this major fixer upper, and it was, great and scary all at the same time, because we got to really imagine what we wanted to build out of it. And during that time we lived in a camper for 6 months while we renovated. We had contractors and stuff doing the big stuff. And so yeah, we've been in the house for a little over 4 years. And it's been so fun because I feel like I really got to learn my style in this house. I feel like in the first house, a lot of it was just kind of like getting to understand how design works, and doing a lot of like paint makeovers, like whatever you could slap paint on, do it. So this time around, I was really more intentional with how I wanted to apply design, knowing things where we were going to drop money on, a whole renovation. You wanted to make sure you were very selective. And from there, I started just pinning ideas of like what I really truly liked, and really dove into what was my style, keeping with things that are trendy too. So I'm not opposed to like doing things that are trendy, but I wanted to make sure that I selected things that I really loved, and not just because other people were doing it or it felt, um, you know, on trend, or too on trend, I should say. So we started to dive into this European farmhouse aesthetic. And I just really love anything European. That's just like, I don't think that'll ever go away. And I really love old things. So that's, those two things really inspire me. Even since like I was a little girl, I've always loved like vintage homes and looking at, all these vintage things. And like, which was funny because my family wasn't that way, but for me, I always loved the idea of like going to these historic like house museums, and kind of like thinking about how people lived, and all of that, at a different time. And so I was very inspired. And we, little by little, I feel like I've learned even more as I've continued to live in this house and try new things. And I always want to kind of like push the envelope a little bit with design, because I think sometimes it can get very, very safe, especially in the blogging and Instagram world. So I want to always try to, encourage, inspire people to try something different, just because everybody else is doing this, try this, and I hope that that's something that people feel from my page. And I'm excited, for our next adventure to hopefully do that even more. And I think with design, um, I feel like you can always get better and you can continue to grow. And for me, there's like no threshold. I feel like every day I can learn new things and get better at this. And I think I'm like my biggest critic. So I feel like, I'm never satisfied. And I'm like, I could do it better next time. I could do it better next year. So, and for most part, we do things on a dime, and for the most part, not saying that everything, so we do have our splurge moments in our house, but I'm a flea market girl. So many things, if I went around and gave you a full tour, I'd be like, that was $5 from the flea market, and that was $5 from the flea market. I love finding a great deal, and I love finding things that are unique and not necessarily something you could just go, to the store and get. I want something that nobody else has in their house.
Yeah, I get that totally. What about your husband? Is he into decorating? Is he handy? Does he help you with anything? Does he build things?
Yeah, so he is super handy to an extent. I'm just There's a truck that pulled up next to my house, and I'm really hoping my dog doesn't bark. So I'm giving you heads up on
Okay.
that. You have to mute it for a second. Every time he sees a truck, he starts barking. He's super handy, but at the same time, I would say he's not a perfectionist, and so and he doesn't do things like a true carpenter would do things, but he could get by, and I'm super thankful for that, because I could do certain things, and we like doing projects together, but I'm also very I fear power tools. I get very nervous with certain power tools and stuff like that. So, especially saw stuff, I've done it, but it's not my favorite thing. I kind of, would prefer him to do those big things, and he is better at it than I am. So we make a good team. I can't say every project is always smooth sailing. It's usually it starts off me saying, "Hey, I have an idea." And then my husband's like, "What now?" And then it goes, "Well, look at this. I sketched it out. What do you think?" And then he's kind of like, "That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's cool. I think we could do it." And then it'll be like, "Hey, you ready for that project?" He's like, we're doing that now. "Oh yeah, I thought you liked the idea," and then it'll be like, "All right, we'll go to the store, we'll go do the project." And then we're all into it, excited. And then he's like, and then something happens, and he loses his patience, and then I lose my patience, and I got to calm him down. It's the same every time. And then we get to the end, and then he's like, "Wow, it's pretty good. I like it." And so, and then and then usually I'm like, "Oh man, needs a little bit more caulk."
That's funny. So, yeah, so you are moving soon. So let's hear about that. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so I just shared yesterday on the blog our the very beginning of the story of our move. So for us, we really, it's funny, I always say I can move every couple years. I love a good house project, so I'm never nervous about that part, and living somewhere else and experiencing a new house and a new neighborhood and yard and all of that. And so for me, I'm not necessarily someone who's I'm gonna park it for the next 30 years. I'm just not. I'm always what's next? But I will say, when we did this house, we did think it was going to be long term, that maybe we would just have a second home somewhere, maybe a little Airbnb that we could rent out and then use in Florida or something like that. And I don't know, it's always been in the back of my head, maybe, but it was kind of surprising for us to actually say, all right, let's actually do it. I mean, we spent a lot of time and money and energy into this house. So, but we really felt it was time to put our kids in a Christian school. And so for that, we started really seeking out some schools. And my husband works remote most of the time. He only has to commute to the city twice a week. So that was also a factor to why we felt we could possibly move. And so we started searching, quite a bit of areas, and we landed upon Pennsylvania. And we found a great school out there. That was the first thing. Find the school, then look around. It's too far from where we are. It's about an hour and 35 minutes from where we are. So it wasn't something we could commute to. And so, yeah, we're very excited about the new journey and chapter of the next house. We found a house. We close on it next month. So that'll be a whole exciting opportunity to share about that. And I know one of the questions I've already been getting is are you going to decorate it the way you did this house? And I think a lot of my touches are going to be similar, still vintage, still that European influence. It's a totally different style house. So I can definitely see things not being exactly the way they are here. But I'm excited. I would, it's a totally different project. We're not building this time. It's going to be just more of a renovation. It'll probably be very slow. Like I don't see us doing everything all at once. So yeah, but it's exciting. I mean, that part excites me. Of course, we're like a little fearful that, once you start a project, there's a domino effect and, is it
Yeah.
gonna cost a lot of money? Is it gonna be more than we are expecting it to be? But we're excited. I mean, we're still nervous about it all too. This house, it is new, so we don't have a lot that we have to worry about here. Everything's new. We don't, it's more aesthetics that we could get to, put into, but not the, big stuff like roof and windows, like those things that you don't want to spend money on.
Exactly. So what's your favorite room in the house you're in now?
My favorite room, probably like I would say like our family room kitchen area, since it's open together. It's definitely a very like it's a very cozy but also very open, and so it allows us to really like entertain. It's very comfortable, and I would say that room, those rooms combined together, like I just love being in that space. It's probably what I'm going to miss the most leaving, because the house we are buying is not going to be an open concept, and so, which I'm kind of excited for, because I feel like open concepts kind of not trending anymore, and I kind of missed more rooms. So I'm excited for that. But it's not going to feel like we're just super comfortable here, like to just be like, oh, I'll be cooking and, watching TV while my kids are hanging out on the couch and stuff like that. Like we won't have that. So I'm going to miss that probably the most, and probably our pantry too. I really, my pantry, I feel like is just such an exciting feature. Like I think every time people come to my house, they're always like, "Wow, you have a walk-in pantry." But it was
Yeah,
like
it's
one of
so
those.
beautiful.
Thank you. It was like one of those design elements that I made sure we had. Like that's the nice thing when you get to like do a house from scratch. Almost, you can say, "All right, well, I like those walk-in pantries. Like I think I could squeeze one right here," And so I'll miss that too. I definitely love that pantry for sure.
Oh, for sure. So what's going on in your mind? You already have plans of what you're going to do, and you're thinking of colors already and stuff like that, or you're thinking of the renos, or what's going
Yeah,
on?
yeah, for sure. I have a pretty solid idea of like how we're going to take off. I feel like one thing I learned in this house was to let things breathe a little. I feel like there were certain decisions that I made, not that many, but there were a couple that I'm like, gosh, I wish I had more time to think it through, instead of just selecting tiles or selecting, this layout or something like that. Because once you live in a space, you learn the space, you learn how it works best for you, and you learn how the light comes into your house. And oh gosh, maybe that white actually wasn't a good white for that room, because it's too, gets too much warm lighting or cool lighting. So those are really, I feel like decorating wise, I'm going to be slower on. I want to like learn the space, like decide on the right furniture pieces. I mean, we're going to take a lot with us too, so I will have to work some of this in. I mean, no one could afford an entire new house of furniture right away, so we'll definitely incorporate that. But I have a few ideas. I think one of the most exciting things, I will share this here. I've been very secretive about a lot of things, because I'm like, I guess more so I'm like, I just want to make sure everything actually falls into place. But one of the things we're most excited about is we're going to take the current dining room in the house and make it the kitchen. And so we're going to reverse it a little bit. And I'm excited for that, because I think it's going to be a pretty cool way to like make a kitchen work. It's a big dining room. So I was like, there's no reason for a big dining room. Like, let's make it a kitchen. And I think that I'm really excited for. I'm already starting to, seek out certain things, like put together some ideas of like colors that I want. and like tiles and things like that, like, but I don't 100% know. I still feel like I have a few ideas, and I'm just hoping the closer we get to moving in and renovating, I'll actually kind of know a little bit more. So, and we have a little time. We won't be leaving our house until July. So, though we close next month, we're going to rent back for a few months, which has been really nice. So my kids can finish school. We could hopefully get some renovations done in the new house so we don't have to live in a total reno. And that's going to be really way better than living in a camper. So I'm super excited about that.
Well, that's for sure.
Yes, that made this process for this house way harder. So, it was good financially because we didn't have to pay rent and a mortgage and stuff. But I don't think I could ever do it again. That is true.
No, I don't think so.
Only one time for me.
That's right. So what would you say is your favorite piece of furniture that you have in your house that you could never give up?
So definitely I would say probably this pine piece that I have in my like dining room area. It was a Facebook Marketplace score, and it's just a great vintage piece that is timeless. I feel like it could really blend with a lot of different styles. And it's funny because I'm like trying to imagine it where I'm going to put it in the new house. And I like have one idea, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm really, really hoping, because I don't think I'll ever part with it. So I'm hoping that like it's got the perfect place in this house. I hope I find the perfect place in the next house for it too.
Yeah, that's hard. When you're moving,
Mhm.
it's hard because you always imagine the place you're going to move into. And when you get there, it's not what you imagine. I think you always imagine it's bigger, or the windows are in a slightly different spot and things like that, and you're not going to be able to go back there 100 times and look at it again and take measurements. So it's kind of hard to plan, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you have someone else's furniture in there. Like I said to my husband the other day, I was like, I can't wait till when we close so we can see the house like empty. I'm excited to see it
Yeah.
as just blank slate completely. And then you could really gauge, like I know they have this like baby grand piano right now, and I was tempted to like buy it off of them. I didn't love the style of it, and nobody plays piano in this house. I played as a kid, so I was kind of, and I quit, and so I've never played again. I don't even know, except for Heart and Soul. That is about all I can play at this point. So, that's all memorization. But I'm like, oh, well, if we keep the piano, then maybe I'll take piano lessons again. I'm like, who am I kidding? I'm like, who's got time for piano lessons? But, we'll see. So I'm curious how the house will for sure look without the baby grand in there, because that's a big piece of furniture. So I wonder, like, how much bigger is it going to look?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like we have a baby grand, and it is a big piece of furniture. Like we have it in the corner of one room, and it's like when I see the pictures of that room before, when it wasn't in there, when the other people lived here, and now it's like it's shrunk.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's such a great thing to have in your house, especially if you have, musicians in your home. And I said to my kids, I said, listen, if mom buys the piano, because they offered it to us, I'm sure it's probably a hassle to move a baby grand. And I know the people that are living in that house are downsizing. They're an older couple. So they probably don't need a baby grand anymore. And I said to my kids, like, listen, like if mom does buy it, would you take lessons? My daughter was kind of like, maybe. And I was like, that would give me, because I always felt my kids don't play instruments, and I always felt bad that they didn't play instruments, but that was never their thing. My son had this, like, he was a little excited to play the drums around third grade. And I told him, I said, if you desire it for 1 year, because drums, that's a hard one to like, drums are hard to deal with in a household. So I'm like, if you desire it for 1 year, I will let you take drum lessons, and we could buy a drum set and all of that. And because I know my kids too, because they're like, they change their minds, like, they change their underwear. So I was like, all right, well, And, you know, a couple months later, I was like, man, I don't really like the drums anymore. I'm like, oh, good thing we didn't invest, you know? So, but if we get a baby grand piano, they will certainly take piano lessons. And I don't know, maybe I'll squeeze in one too, but I didn't love the style of it. So we'll see what the house looks like without it. And if I feel like it's missing that piece, then maybe we'll buy, you know, buy another used one or something like that. So we'll see.
Mhm. Yeah, like I think pianos are so beautiful and they're a great piece to decorate around too.
Yeah. Oh my
Right?
goodness.
They're gorgeous.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That I feel like the style of it was like maybe the wood, it was just a little off. And then I said, well, maybe I could paint it, but she was still wanting to sell it to me for a little high. And I was like, well, maybe if you said it was free, I'll get it. You know, I was like, it's probably going to cost you more to ship it. Like, so.
Yeah, it's just, that's true.
I was like, then maybe I'll paint it or something like that. I don't know. I love like a black lacquer one, right? Like those black
Yeah,
lacquer ones.
that's what we have.
Oh my goodness. I'm like, I wish it was that, because then I would have kept it and paid whatever for it. So, because it would have been easier to keep it than to have someone ship one over to us, you know, and deliver it in the house and all that stuff. Um, so yeah, but you know, we'll see that. And I really love like a good clock. Like I said, for this house, I feel like I want all of that. Like, I really do believe that like when you experience your home, you should have like, not only should it be beautiful, but it should also smell good and it should also sound good. And so I was like, oh, it would be so nice, like to have the piano where like, especially if it like self plays, and then to have like a clock that just chimes and, you know, all those little details. I was thinking like, what did I say to them the other day? Because my kids they want more pets. And I'm like, I don't know. And they want another dog. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I could deal with another dog right now, though. For me, my heart, I could adopt all the dogs in the world, but I know my patience and my time is, you know, and moving into a new house, you never know if a dog's gonna chew things or, you know, ruin it. So I'm like, I don't know, guys, we'll see. I was like, well, maybe we'll get some birds. So we were talking about, what was it, the canaries? Because they sing, you know, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that would be so nice to have like canaries singing and clocks ringing and pianos self-playing. This is what I'm envisioning.
Yeah, no, that's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because our piano actually does play itself. There's new technology. So it's actually hooked up to the internet and it can play itself, and
Oh, you're kidding.
internet piano radio. So, and it actually makes the keys move and the hammers get hit. So
Oh
it's
my
real.
goodness.
It's not
That is
just,
amazing.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
amazing.
it's so cool. And it's actually where someone else can play their piano remotely and it will make the keys move on ours. So they're
Oh,
playing
wow.
our piano in real time. Like it's,
Get out. Oh my
yeah,
goodness. You'll have to like make sure to drop the link somewhere because everybody's going to want one of these pianos now. That is so cool. You'll have to send me where you found that, because
yeah,
that would make it worth it too, because it's going to take a long time to learn how to play good. So, you know, might
yeah,
as well have it self play. Oh my gosh, you're selling me on it now.
yeah. No, the technology is amazing. There's even like one time Elton John was playing one of those pianos in, I think, California, and it was live. And as he played, your keys went down. So he was playing your piano, and then you can hook up your tablet or your TV or whatever and see him actually doing it at live, right?
That has got to
So
be the coolest thing I've ever heard. Like, that is so cool. Wow. What is the piano called? Or is it like, what is it called that
it's a
does this?
Yamaha and it's called a
Okay.
disc clavier. So disc clavier, and um, what's it called? Steinway has come out with a similar technology, but this was first. And so they
Wow.
have different models of it. You know, there's obviously different sizes of it, and it has speakers underneath the piano.
Mm,
So you can actually put in a CD, like I can put in Michael Bublé's CD, and
mm.
his voice will come out of the speakers, and the saxophones and all that will come out of the speakers, but the piano part is live. It hit, the hammers hit the strings, and that part is being played live on your piano. It's like,
Wow.
it's
That's
insane.
the coolest thing. I'm convinced. Now I need a piano. Definitely need to budget for one of those. So
Well, I'll send you a link and you can investigate this. But yeah,
yes.
technology is amazing. And, now they're even using it for people, say you're in Japan and you want to audition to come to a school in America. So you can play on one of those pianos, and then the instructor in America can hear you playing, and it actually
Wow.
picks up all the nuances.
Uh-huh.
It's not, yeah, because it's important in piano playing, your timing and the pressure you put on the keys and all that stuff. And that actually gets translated. It's what do they call that? Those fibers, light fibers are inside of it. I forget the name of
Okay.
that technology, but on every key, there's one of these wires, right? So it picks up everything. It's amazing.
Wow. That is so cool. By the way, I just wanted
Yeah.
to know, I don't think like, so my email notifications are coming up once in a while. Do you see them on your side or no?
No, I don't
Okay.
see
I
anything. I
wanted to make
just,
sure. I should have
yeah,
shut that
no,
off
that's,
before I even think about it. Okay. Um, that is, I think that is the coolest thing I've ever heard. I'm so sold on that idea. Oh my goodness.
yeah.
I feel like after this interview, you're gonna make a killing off of the affiliate link on this piano.
Yeah, I never thought of that. I better set up an affiliate link with the Emma.
Hopefully they have one, right?
Yeah. No, it's so cool. And then there's, other technologies as well for learning, and the piano, it can record too. So you can record your left hand and then you play the right against your left. So you can practice on different parts. And it's just, you can have the music going by on your tablet, so you don't have to change the sheets, right?
Mhm.
It'll just keep going for you.
Wow.
And yeah, it's
That's
amazing.
amazing. That is so cool. All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't buy this piano from the current homeowners because I'm gonna need one of those. I
Oh,
mean, and
well,
that's what it's all about, right? Like, so to me, I think one of the things I always want to teach people is like, you know, it's, you can decorate, but you should really experience your home. And I'm all about all of the senses and really, I mean, we've got a record player, and that's one of my favorite things is to like just to be able to be so I don't know what the word is, but like to turn the record and to feel like just that old school way of experiencing your home is so great. Turn the TV off, put the music on, put your automatic piano keys on. Like that is to me, and that's what makes the house feel good, right? It's like good to like look
exactly.
good, but you want it to feel good too, so all of
Yeah.
those things are really important.
Yeah. And it's like those kind of things give it a soul. I always think having old books gives it a soul, and music and piano and all that. And then the scents.
Yes.
I'm gonna send you something. I have a store, and our best selling item is an oil for diffusers. It's an essential oil that comes from France.
Hmm.
And honestly, I've sold over 2,000 bottles of this
Oh my
little
God,
oil. Yeah, if
amazing.
later in email, send me your address and I'm going to send you a bottle of
Awesome.
it,
Oh,
because
thank you
it's
so much. I would love
you're
that.
welcome. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
like it smells like home actually. It has a name, but I wanted to rebrand it, and I just wanted to call it home because that's what it smells like to me. And it's
Mm.
warm and inviting and soft, and yeah, it's just wonderful. People come into the store, haven't even passed the foyer, and they go, "Oh my God, it smells good in here."
Oh,
and
that is
and then I
that's like the
go,
best
"Oh, I
compliment,
sell
right?
that." Yeah,
That is
yeah,
that is so smart as a store owner. So I don't know if you're aware, I also make candles, so I have a whole candle
yeah,
line, and and I always say like to any shops that carry our candles, like burn the candle because that's what sells it. Because as soon as people smell it, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to have that, you know? And to me, I like selected fragrances that all do something different for me. Like I like things that kind of feel nostalgic, you know, like we have a rose fragrance, and everybody that's burned this rose has said to me, you know, I didn't think I was a rose person until like I burned this candle. And I love it because it's such a like, to me, rose is such an old school type of fragrance. But it's so like, it's flowery, right? It's floral. So you have to like floral to a certain extent, but it just really feels like nostalgia to me, you know? And even though, you know, I don't necessarily have had to be from like the 1920s or something like that, but it feels like that. And we have you know, all of our fragrances that I just feel like they do something, you know, the French lavenders just feel so restful, you know, and all of those things. I mean, scent is so important. And, you know, we just did open houses a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, I had all the scents going. I was like, all right, like, you know, let's get the fragrances going in the house. And I actually got this really cool spray too from Shop Amber Interiors. They sent me the spray, and it lasts so long and it smells so good that like I was like, ooh, like I felt like it smelled like luxury. So I was like, let's spray that before people walk in the house. And like really it's made the house feel like more luxurious, you know, like I would say almost like a really nice furniture store. Like that's what it smelled like. And I was like, all right, done. Like let's spray this, you know. So so important. Fragrance, sound, you know, all of that is just so important when, you know, you make a home.
Yeah, well, that's what I think. And actually, I wanted to ask you about your candles and how, you know, what the idea to do that and how did you develop that and all that stuff.
Yeah, so my candles, so they actually it was kind of like funny how they all developed. And I just love the journey of just like blogging, like one thing leads to the next. And sometimes just because you start something one way doesn't mean that's how it's going to end up looking. And so in 2019, I actually designed this whole idea of a Facebook group called Home Healing. And it was a free group that I was offering to my followers. And we started building it out in 2019, and then in 2020 we launched it January 2020. And little did I know we were all going to be locked up in just a couple months, and here I was preaching about home healing and how the whole idea of it was to really help people no matter what they go, right? No matter what, you could feel like your life is almost perfect, right? Can't complain. But we all have something we struggle with, right? Whether it's depression or seasonal depression or loss of somebody, or maybe loss of purpose, you know? And so I really wanted to create this group to encourage people no matter what you're going through. Maybe you're just a stressed out mom that like lost herself and like feel like
Yeah.
you can't get your house together, you know, because you got toys all over the place or whatever it is in your life. And so I created this group to kind of let people learn how to be creative in their homes and to learn to love their homes. And so the whole idea was that I was going to build this group. It was going to be free. It was going to create community and inspire them. I had Facebook Lives that I was doing in this group. And I was going to then create subscription boxes that I was going to be able to send to them to experience their home, to have this home healing. And so I figured I'd start with the candle because it's, you know, it was based on the senses, the whole group. And so I said, well, let's start with smell. And I found a local candle maker to make candles. I selected each fragrance, and we started as a candle of the month. And so that's kind of how it started, was that I wanted to allow the people that were in this group to buy the candle, subscribe to it. And then every month they got this surprise candle and fragrance, and it was selected by me. And each fragrance would be something that would remind you of that month, you know? So maybe it was lemons for May, or, you know, cotton for July and things like that. And so from there, it didn't do super great, and it was okay. Like it was like we had you know, quite a few followers, but it wasn't enough. And it was putting a ton of time into selecting fragrances. And then I had this girl who was pouring for me, and it was just wasn't really working. And so we gave it up until the whole year. We finished the whole year out. We started in April, finished it in December. But I had a lot of people asking me about the candles, and I'm like, oh, well, it's a subscription. Like, you can only get it if you subscribe. And then I had a local shop who was interested in picking them up. And I said, so I dropped them off, and then it opened up this whole world of like, oh, well, I'll just make candles to sell, stock them, and I'll do a wholesale line. And so that's where that started. And then 3 months into it, the girl that was pouring for me, we were trying to get to a certain number because I was trying to grow it, and she was charging me a lot. And I asked her if she could come down, and she said no. And I said, oh, okay, well, it's growing though. And she's like, yeah, well, I'll send you a couple videos on how to make candles. And I was like, okay. And that was it. And I taught myself in 1 month how to pour candles, and I took over. No.
Wow.
And so that's how it came to be what it is today. And I did have, I've had help. Like I had another college student who worked for me for a little while, pouring and packing, which made it a lot easier. And then my assistant, sometimes she'll come and help me pour if I need the help. But for the most part, it's just me pouring and packing and labeling. And we've done some markets. I don't know where the candle line is going to go. It's, I really love it, but as you know, when you're got all these hats you're wearing, there's something's got to give. And Vintage Keepers is my newest baby, and I have a lot more invested in that than I do in my candles. And so I'm trying to just keep up with it. My followers that do buy the candles love it. So I'm just trying to, at this point, maybe not make it a huge part and a huge investment, but like just keeping up with it and keeping up with some wholesale orders and keeping up with getting things stocked. But I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. I've thought about selling it. I've thought about, maybe once we move and get settled, maybe we could actually take it out of the house and invest more into it, because I really love it. But, there's only so many things you can do as a human, and when you're a mom and all the things.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I still do, and we've got our own line and all that. But yeah, I've got a friend who is in the States, and she has a candle business. She has a warehouse and everything. So she'll do wholesale. So if it ever comes to that, I can give you a connection, and maybe you could work.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Absolutely. Yeah, you just never know. You never know who you could talk to. And it's got a nice following, and we are in quite a few stores. But I don't know. I feel like the dreaming for the candle line has stopped. Like, I just kind of like, I'm just keeping up at this point. But maybe the dreaming will start up again. And obviously with the move and everything, there's a lot on my plate that I have to, navigate and pick and choose at this point. So
yeah, you might need to outsource it and just still have it, but not do it yourself, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I don't mind having a involvement in it, but to do all of it, to pour, pack, like there's, I already feel very, very stretched thin. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see where this year brings.
Yeah, I get it. And you mentioned Vintage Keepers. I want to ask you about that as well.
Yeah, so Vintage Keepers is my newest baby. I mean, it's almost a year old, which is crazy. And it's just very exciting. I, had this vision. It's a long story how that came to be. I'll save you the time, but basically, after trying to pursue a few things locally with the market idea, we thought multiple different types of market, like kind of like a food market or a coffee market or a vintage market. All those ideas just weren't taking off. And so last January, I was just tired of feeling like we're trying to make all these things work, and everywhere we turned, there was just roadblock. And I just had this moment where I was like, I feel like God was just like, all right, why don't you do it why does it have to be in person? Do it online. And I was like, and it just like all hit me at that moment. And I was like, okay. And I was like, there's, there are vintage market places out there, but there was nothing like, for me, I was sharing with my followers all the time, all these vintage finds, because they always ask me, oh, where do you get all your stuff? And so I was starting to share it on my Instagram account. And I'm like, well, Etsy's kind of getting buried. Like all these vintage vendors are getting buried. A lot of them are moving to Instagram, yet they don't have this solid business. They're just kind of like throwing things out there, trying to do these drops and have this Instagram business. And so it's like, why not give them an opportunity to have a platform to sell? And our target will be the middle class homeowner who's just, can't afford the big dogs, all these big expensive antiques, that just want the Etsy price points, but they want an easy way to find it. And have my vendors have an easy way to display it. And so we built the website with my web builder, who was fantastic. And it's been a journey. It's been another roller coaster ride of a business. Lots of highs and lots of lows. It's just me and my assistant, Kelly, who we together, we're running that and running the blog and running all the things. And I do have a tech team too, which does the tech stuff for me, but that's really it. So we're excited to see where it goes. We currently have a little over 40 vendors. We've kind of stuck around that number. I think we could definitely put more on, but we're also trying to pace it because, page views versus what we're selling, how much inventory we have. We're pretty selective in the process too. We want to make sure we have people that are serious about selling vintage as a business or a really great side hustle instead of just being like an eBay. We want it to be very curated and beautiful. We want our customers to come and really trust what our prices are and trust what we have on the site. And I mean, we're all in on that. That is for sure. It is like, it's not going anywhere. We've had our struggles, but we're excited to grow it. I mean, we'd love to be like the next Etsy of vintage, like that's our goal, is to get there. And, we're, right now it's like a very mom and pop. That's what we keep calling it. It's mom and pop, which has got its benefits too. But we have like big plans, big goals, big dreams for it. We're hoping, maybe an investor will come by and, blow us out of the water, and we could really be the next big platform. And I just think one of the best parts to it is like, we're such a community. And I call them my girls. Right now we only have all female vendors, but we're open to all, guy vendors. It's just how it's landed at this point. It's mostly just female. And so I always say my girls, but we're like a great community. And I think that really came in my life too, personally, at a really good time, because I felt like I was losing that in the blog world. I feel like for a long time, the blog world, we were very united, and with all the Instagram and TikTok and video content, like we've lost it a little bit. And so it's so nice to talk to other women that love vintage and love business. And like, we're always on the phone, like, hey, what do you think we should price this at? Hey, look what I found today. Those things are so amazing to have. And they feel that way. They feel like they were missing that. And I said, you have all these people selling vintage, but they're all like doing it by themselves. Like, let's bring a community together, encourage one another. And, nobody's in a competition. This is all a place where we all want to see each other thrive. And so I love that so much. And I feel like in a way I've become their like business coach too, which has been fun for me because I love that side of the industry. I love thinking business. I love coming up with ideas for people and seeing where they can, do better and be better. And so that has been a big part of it too, is me building them up and teaching them different ways that they could be successful. And we started workshops, and then this September, we're going to do our very first Vintage Keepers Market here in New Jersey. So that's going to be really fun to kind of bring bring it to life and bring it to an in-person event. And, you know, and we're open to taking like any vintage antique dealer. It's not just people that are part of the Vintage Keepers online, you know, community. So it's fun. It's like there's a lot going on with it. That is for sure. It takes up probably more time than anything else. Like at this point, the blog is second, and you know, Vintage Keepers is pretty much always on the mind, always doing something for it.
Well, that's like really a great idea. Like that's so cool. Yeah, I
Thank
know
you.
a lady. Yeah, I know a lady. She's in France, and she goes to the markets every weekend, and she buys the things, and then she sells them to North American customers. She ships them to North America, and like you know the markets in France are called the brocante market, and so her blog, her website is called Brocante Majoli. Right.
Oh,
And so, yeah, that's what she does. And that's really cool for people who really want something that came from France. Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
actually have two of our vendors that source from Europe, and a lot of them come from France. Most of their products are French. And one of my vendors, she actually was living in Switzerland. She's from New York, and they just moved back. So she, you know, had a huge load come this way with her. And so, which is really like, especially for me, because I love all things European and especially French. So she has like tons of stuff from France and Europe that, you know, that she's found at markets. It's on our website, and it's like so cool because now you're getting US ship rates because they're coming from America, you know, and yeah, I mean, we have vendors from all over the States. We have a couple in Canada, and you know, we're mostly North American, like our customers, but we do have some Canadian customers at this point. So yeah, we're just looking to grow that. There's so much to learn still, and we're tweaking things all the time with it because, you know, it's a new business and there's a lot to learn, a lot to grow. So, but it's fun. I love being able, I feel like there's so many people today that are getting into vintage because vintage is trendy now, right? So
Yes.
it is trendy. But there's so many people that are catching on to the idea of vintage, and I call them first generation shoppers, which I am too. So I'm also a first generation shopper when it comes to vintage. And I feel like we get to kind of like show them what's good and show them what to buy and bring more affordable price points to them, you know, because a lot of these websites are really overpriced, and you know, we're trying to be fair in our pricing. And I think that's really cool because so many people are learning how to decorate vintage, which I'm all about because I truly believe that every home should really be curated to your taste and to what you like. And so when you shop vintage, things are unique. It's not like the store is like, you must buy all these because we have like, you know, 40 of them on our website. Oh, did I lose you? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So I think my battery's low. I can't believe that. I'll have to charge it. But yeah, so you know, we hope that we can bring more ideas to first generation vintage shoppers and inspire them on what to buy for their home.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really a great thing to do. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm shopping there all the time too. I'm like, oh, I gotta stop shopping.
Yeah, that's the temptation, right? I have that
Yeah.
problem too.
Yeah. But I'm on there all the time, like, you know, marketing things, looking at things. I'm like, ooh, that's new. Like, ooh, that's mine now.
I know. Self-control.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I wanted to ask you another thing is who are some of your favorite bloggers or bloggers who you are friends with?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a ton of bloggers and designers that I love and follow. One of my blog besties is Salvage Living, Kim and Roxanne from the Honeycomb Home. They're like people I met very, very early on. They're like, Kim is in Texas, so we are not like close, but Roxanne's in New Jersey, and we've had such a wonderful friendship. She's like my flea market buddy. Like we go flea marketing together all the time, and so they're like my friends, like, you know, like beyond the internet. But so many people. I mean, I look up to so many. Oh my gosh, I can't even like, I don't know. I can't even think of all the people. Like there's just a ton. I love the blogging world for that. I really feel like I got to connect with so many different people that, you know, love what I love. And I don't really know too many people like that in my own circle. Most people I know don't get it. They're
Yeah.
not they're not like obsessed with decorating and you know, revamping a room every year.
Yeah. Do you go to Haven? Do you know Haven?
Yep, I've been to Haven probably about 4 times. I haven't
Yeah.
been back in a really long time. So I think the last one I kind of went to was in 2020 when they did it virtual, and I actually taught about pitching brands, and that was the last one that I kind of was involved with. But I think the last in-person one I went to was in 2018. So it's been a long time. I thought about maybe going again. Actually thought about maybe going as a brand, like to represent Vintage Keepers, because we do have affiliate
Yeah.
marketing and stuff like that. So we are part of Like to Know It. And so I've thought about that, and then I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm always back and forth, you know. So we'll see. But I love Haven for that because I've met a lot of people, you know, I've met all my favorite, you know, bloggers through that. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's a place where you can feel at home because everybody knows what you're doing and knows what you're talking about, you know, because sometimes when you're in a business, you're doing it yourself, nobody you know knows what you feel like or the things you're thinking about all the time. And then it's finally that you've got someone to
yeah.
talk to, right?
Yes, because there's so many sides to the business. So it's so nice to be able to talk to people about, oh, SEO, or, oh, like photography, or, oh, you know, like, so it's so refreshing to have that. Yeah, it's really cool. So I know we'll see if I can make it this year. Back and forth about it. I've been back and forth about it every summer since 2018. And like every summer I go, oh, not this year, you know? So there's either something happening or I don't want to invest in it, you know? I'm hoping to do some more like retreats or mastermind groups and stuff like that. I think sometimes having that smaller group where you're really intentional on learning and growing and meeting other
Yeah.
like-minded owners is really helpful. So we're doing a retreat for Vintage Keepers in May in Brimfield, and that is going to be like my first chance to try to run one myself, but it'll be a little bit more lax, not super business, more of an event to kind of get together and you know, but we'll see. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do love Haven though for the connections for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm in a mastermind group where we have a Zoom call every Monday, and it's a few bloggers and myself, and we just talk about every week we have a different topic. Like this week is going to be about affiliates, and next week might be about, like you said, SEO, and we're all different, so we all have different strengths, right? One might
Yeah.
be really big on Pinterest or really big on Amazon, and you know, we just share information, and you know, it's a friendly environment. We can ask anything. So yeah, it's really
Mhm.
neat. We just learn from each other. So
Yeah.
and there's no competition, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
It's
really
one of the
awesome.
best ways to learn is like from each other, you know, because there's a lot of courses out there, there's a lot of stuff, you know, but sometimes just having that conversation with people in your inner community, like that's really what does help you, you know. So sometimes these courses, they're hard to finish, or you don't apply what you've learned, or you spend all this money and it wasn't even that helpful, you know. So it's good to kind of have those people you trust and you can, you know, share with each other and trust one another. And so that's awesome. I haven't done anything like that in a while. And I think because I've gone off gear a little bit, I don't, you know, I mean, my blog is still my bread and butter, but at the same time, like I have all these other ideas that I'm trying to apply that I think I'm kind of going a different direction. But it's funny. I feel like that's where I was going, was like going more in the business world instead of the blogging world this past year. And now with my new house that we're going to be doing, I'm like, well, here comes all the blog content, you know,
There
back
you
at
go.
it.
Right. Wow. Yeah. Well, we've been going just a little bit over an hour now, so I'll be respectful of your time, and thank you so much for chatting and
Yeah,
sharing
thank you,
with
Lisa,
me.
for having me. You're
Yeah, it
so
was so
sweet
nice.
for asking me. I really appreciate it, and definitely, share the link. I'd love to see it and reshare it. So I appreciate the
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah. Well, yeah, thank you so much. And, it was just so nice to get to know you. And I'm sure my followers, I know some of them, a lot of them already know who you are. So they'll be excited to get, a more personal view of you. So yeah, thank you so much. And, let's keep in touch.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay, you are welcome.